Happy the day after playoffs, everybody. And I'm talking Canadian Premier League playoffs, Major League Soccer playoffs, because there is a Canadian team in the hunt there. And we're going to break it all down here on One Soccer today, here on onesoccer.ca. Eddie Petrillo alongside Oliver Platt and Gareth Wheeler, and gentlemen, right here on One Soccer. It was a busy Saturday doubleheader. It was leg one of the semifinals of the 2022 Canadian Premier League playoffs. And our producer, Lucas, was a little, offended that I was making fun of his movie choices last week because they were from the 1930s. Who understood those references? So we're going to continue with the movie theme, but he's put it in your hands. Thank you, Jesus. So what we're going to do is we're going to dissect these playoff games, and you're going to use a movie theme to describe how each team did. So let's begin with Atletico Ottawa going to Starlight Stadium, taking on Pacific FC. So as we know, Atletico Ottawa, the top team in the regular season, Pacific, the defending champions. They just get into the playoffs in that fourth position. And what do you know? It's Ottawa. It's the visitors in leg one who walk away with the 2-0 victory. So Wheels, I'm going to begin with you. What movie best sums up the performance by Atletico Ottawa?
It's a great film that I picked, by the way.
Okay.
Very popular. Groundhog Day. Bill Murray, the lovable Andy McDowell. Because it's the same thing over and over and over again when it comes to Atletico Ottawa. Repetition in a positive way is the most difficult thing for any sports team, but they repeat the same performance each and every time out, especially from an away perspective. This is why they were the best team in Canadian Premier League history away from home this season. 2-0, it seemed straightforward. They limited chances. They didn't overcommit themselves into attacking positions, and a couple great goals on the counterattack, fluid plays. Their star players stepped up. Like, they play this way each and every time out. It's the ultimate compliment for this team, and doesn't have to be flash and dash, but it's efficient and it's consistent. It's predictable and I guess somewhat enjoyable, just like the film Groundhog Day.
I like that pick. All right, Ollie, what's yours?
I've gone with an all-time classic here, starting with a bang. I'm going with the Shawshank Redemption for this Atletico Ottawa performance, and more for the entire story of Atletico Ottawa. They're a team that found themselves in a very difficult situation, hit rock bottom last season, obviously, and they've just slowly chipped away at redemption, chipped away at finding their way through. They're nearly there now. They've nearly completed the tunnel. They've been called all sorts of names. Exactly. They've been called all sorts of names by all sorts of people. They've been through the crap. And now they're one game away from a home final. So like I said, the tunnel is nearly completed. It was another classic Atletico Ottawa performance, I think. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in my Pacific pick. But yeah, a team that has gone from bottom to top.
Is this a safe space, guys? Because can I admit something?
You haven't seen it, have you?
I've never seen Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah.
I know it's a classic. I've never seen it.
I would let that off, but usually it's me getting ridiculed for not having seen famous movies, so I'm not inclined to let that go. That's terrible.
Oh, come on.
What's your excuse?
This is a safe space.
What's your excuse for not seeing Shawshank Redemption?
I've seen all these other movies. And I know it's one. And do you want to know what else I've never watched from start to finish? It's in its entirety. Not that I'm trying to digress from the playoffs here. I've seen bits and pieces, but never from start to finish. Forrest Gump. Go ahead.
I've never seen
Crucify me. I haven't seen it.
This is why you didn't appreciate our producer's outstanding level of creativity coming up with this great idea.
Doctor, whatever it was.
Just stop it. Stop it. All right. I got that off my chest. I haven't seen Shawshank. There. Let's move on to Pacific. Ollie, I'm going to begin with you. And which movie best sums up their performance?
Another big one here. I wouldn't call it a classic. I think it's a bit overrated. I also think Rose is presented as a hero. She's one of the biggest villains in movie history, in my opinion. But I've gone with Titanic in the sense that
villain.
She's a villain. Do you want to get into why she's a villain?
Because she let him die. She didn't let him on the plane.
Because there was plenty of room for two on that raft, Andy. Like, it was a big piece of wood, and she just let him freeze to death. Also, the other issue I have with Rose is that she goes at the end, she seems to die and goes to the big Titanic in the sky. And instead of being greeted by her actual husband, who she's had kids with, it's Jack that's waiting for her. Like, how do you think her husband feels?
Yeah.
Well, he
Bad
knew what
character.
he was getting into.
He knows the
Too
guilt.
bad, so
She
sad.
chose the guy, a fling on a cruise over her actual husband. Villain. Anyway, like I was saying,
what does this have to do with Pacific?
Pacific.
Getting to Pacific. It was basically for Pacific. It was all going pretty well. It all seemed to be, everyone was having a good time at Starlight Stadium, and then they hit the iceberg. And in hindsight, maybe you should have probably seen the massive iceberg coming, because this is what Atletico Ottawa do, right? They get you, you think that you have them, pressure on Ottawa in the second half. Pacific comes flying out, and they have you exactly where they want you, right? And they just wait for you to tire out a little bit. They wait for you to start to overextend and make some bad decisions, and then they get you and you hit the iceberg, just like Titanic did. So that's my choice for Pacific.
Okay.
My pick is another blockbuster smash hit. Tour de force performance, by the way, from Zach Galifianakis. It's The Hangover. Bradley Cooper, Ed Helms, because they won the championship last time around. Now this season, it seems like they've lost a bunch of their friends along the way. They can't find the groom. Well, Wero Diaz, I know where he is. He's in Norway right now, because that's what they're completely missing, a true finisher. And just when things look like they were getting better for the group, then things would always go sideways, go pear-shaped, and there'd be another problem to solve. It's been a season of solving and trying to come up with solutions to various problems. And in the end, it's just not quite enough to beat a methodical side like Atletico Ottawa. There's been some good times this season, some really good times, but at the end of the day, there's just too many issues to resolve here.
And Ollie, do you want to know why for women, oftentimes the strongest love is with the man she hasn't known the longest, the fling on the Romeo and Juliet? It's because if the guy sticks around long enough, she starts to figure him out. So that's why it's the quick love, and then the passion stays strong.
I hope your husband isn't watching this. Jeez. This
is immoral.
Wow.
I love you very, very much. All right, let's go to the
for
other
now. Later
game.
on, 10 years from now. Yikes.
Why do these things have to be recorded? Why does everything I say have to be recorded and used against me? The other semifinal game, it was Cavalry, who had the best home record during the regular season, hosting Forge. We were really looking forward to this one, gentlemen. And I think I'm not going out on a limb when I say the game itself wasn't exactly blow your socks off. Maybe we were expecting some fireworks, because it's a rivalry that's been since the start of the Canadian Premier League. It was their 19th all-time meeting. Near the end, though, things got chippy. We had a chance to speak to Tommy Wilden Jr., who joined us after the game. He was none too pleased either, already talking about Forge acting like they had won the game, even though it was a 1-1 draw. So I am expecting some spicy things for leg 2 in Hamilton. But 1-1 was the score line there. Wheels, which movie best describes Cavalry's performance?
I had to pick a Nick Cage film amongst my selections, because why not? Nick Cage. How about Gone in 60 Seconds? Angelina Jolie's in that film. Vinnie Jones, a football reference right there. But Gone in 60 Seconds, because actually it's gone in 63 seconds. That's how long it took for Forge to score in the second half to equalize things and level things up at 1-1. And it was just that moment. I mean, the film Gone in 60 Seconds, if you haven't seen it, like Nick Cage needs to steal 50 luxury cars in one night to save his brother, I think. But it's about those quick moments. It was like just right at the beginning of the game, right after halftime, Forge was able to strike, leave their mark. And Cavalry is going to regret the fact that they let their guard down for that brief moment. Because other than that, I thought they played a pretty decent home game against Forge. And these two teams they're so even in everything that they do. Every time they play one another, there's very little that separates one from another. So it's just those 60 seconds, those quick moments that matter the most. And Cavalry needs to make sure that Forge doesn't strike in a similar manner on the return leg.
All right, I'm getting points for originality here because I've done the exact same thing as Wheels on Groundhog Day and just picked a time loop movie. I've gone with Palm Springs, a more modern twist on the genre.
Oh, yeah.
Recommend this one, by the way, if you haven't seen it. Really good movie.
It's okay.
But it feels... I liked it.
I've seen it. I liked it.
It was 6 out of 10 material.
No, 8. I thought it was one of the better
time loop movies.
time loop movies that I've seen.
Could have picked Tenet or Memento or like
Too serious.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
But it feels like a time loop for Cavalry, right? It feels like history repeating itself just in these playoff matchups. They can't seem to quite get on the right side of them. Little details kind of go against them, little decisions go against them at times. In this film, one of the main characters ends up having to learn quantum physics in order to get them out of the time loop. And I think it's going to take that kind of effort this week for Cavalry to produce a result against Forge at Tim Hortons Field. So they're in a tough spot right now.
If I had to learn quantum physics, just end it now. Just declare it over now.
You're in that loop.
I don't even know I'm in that loop forever. What about Forge, Ollie? What movie are you thinking when you think of their performance?
Forge, I've gone for Jaws: The Revenge, which I haven't seen, but I believe is like the fourth Jaws or something like that.
Yeah, why not just the original Jaws?
Well, for two reasons. Firstly, this one got critically panned. It wasn't a good film at all. This was terrible. This movie, right? So I think Cavalry Forge. This wasn't really a memorable sequel to some of the Cavalry Forge matches we've had in the past. Don't think it had quite as much entertainment value as we've seen before. So that for the first reason, but specifically for Forge, because Michael Caine was in this movie. He got a big payday to do it. And when he was asked if he'd ever seen it, he said, no, but I've seen the house it bought and it's fantastic. And I think that's kind of Forge's mentality coming out of this leg, right? It's not a memorable game. They won't be watching it back anytime soon. But they're nicely set up now to go home at Tim Hortons Field and progress to the final if they can win a home game against Cavalry.
Okay.
I'm a James Bond fan, so I wanted to make sure we have a James Bond title. And why don't we pick the last one, the most recent one, and the last one for Daniel Craig? It's No Time to Die, because this team, as much as they continue to falter and not impress, they're still very difficult to kill and get them out of the way. Cavalry had their shot. They had a chance. I don't want to be spoiler alert and tell you what happens at the end of this film, but like,
I can believe it.
It doesn't end well. And that's where I think things are trending for Forge. So they're managing to stay alive for now, but there's nothing convincing about this performance. And, No Time to Die, cut it to Ollie's point. It's not the best Bond film. It's not Daniel Craig's best Bond film. It's good.
But do you think Forge are going to be James Bond in this scenario without giving away any spoilers for people?
I do.
Wow.
I do. Yeah. Yeah.
So basically you're going Cavs then. That's kind of what I'm hearing.
Don't spoil it, Andy. People might not have seen it.
Listen, I don't care. I didn't see Shawshank. I didn't see Forrest. And if you didn't see No Time to Die, which I did, too bad.
Double O wheels up.
That was fun.
On the case.
That was entertaining when it comes to the movies, because I do feel like we can relate to those ones because they're within, the last few years.
Except for Shawshank Redemption for Andy.
What is this movie you speak of?